Artificial intelligence is one of the most exciting developments in technology today. You can go and type in a description of whatever you want, and artificial intelligence will just generate an image for you. You can go into ChatGPT and ask it any question you want, and it will generate an answer for you. And that leads us to the question we're going to tackle in today's video. Can artificial intelligence replace Joshua Bardwell? I'm Joshua Bardwell, and you're going to learn something today. The video that we're making today has been inspired by the work of Adam FPV. You see, ChatGPT just opened up the ability to train your own AI large language model based on sources of information that you decide. And Adam fed it a bunch of FPV related stuff. He fed it in and he made a Bardwell-like AI large language model. But how good is it really? In order to answer that question, I have invited its Blunty to come and test it out. Now, you've been playing with this. And you have prepared some troubleshooting scenarios. And what I think is the most fun and exciting way to test this out is we're going to get in a chat and I'm going to pretend to be the AI. I'm going to try and solve your problems, ask you questions. You're going to answer those questions. And then we're going to do the same thing with this AI large language model and see how it stacks up. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I think that's going to be a good time. I've gone through and specifically curated some questions, and they did come from your Patreon Discord, and they're word for word user questions. I think it'll be fun.
So you didn't make these up. You went onto my Discord server, which has a troubleshooting forum for those who don't know, and you grabbed actual questions that actual patrons of mine are asking, and you're going to answer the questions honestly, but we're just going to work through it in sort of simulation. Is that right?
Yeah, all these questions are questions that we got in your Discord, and then I went through, helped the user back and forth until we came to a solution. So I have a known solution for each of the issues.
Okay, so, let's get into it.
Hey guys, it's Joshua from the future. I just got done editing this video, and I got to tell you, this took like 2 hours for me and Blunty to record, and there is no way for me to edit it down in a way that you can follow all the ins and outs of the troubleshooting procedure and really see where I got it right and I got it wrong and the AI got it right and the AI got it wrong. I'm going to edit it down in a way that I think brings it to a watchable length while still letting you see the highlights of what we got right and what we got wrong. And if you want to see the whole thing, the whole edit is about an hour. And I'm going to put that up on my Patreon. There's a link in the video description below if you want to join my Patreon and watch it. It's still not the whole 2 hour edit, but that would be just insane. But it's a little bit more of a complete picture of what we both got right and we got wrong. All right, on with the video.
This problem is a connector pin issue. Basically, he had to remap UARTs and he had a DMA issue. So he says, after failing around my VTX quad in on ARM, RPM filter warning.
Okay, RPM filter warning means that you're using bidirectional D-shot and the flight controller cannot talk to the ESC. It's either a problem with the signal wire between the FC and the ESC, or the ESC is, usually it means the ESC is unplugged or powered down.
I checked BL Heli and couldn't find one of the 4 ESCs.
Okay, so maybe the signal connection to one of the ESCs is damaged somehow, or the ESC is damaged, and that would cause RPM filter.
I tried another FC to ESC cable, same outcome. I tested the ESC with a multimeter, but no shorts. I bought a replacement ESC, still the same outcome.
Okay, so the cable is probably fine. We still could have an issue with the pins inside the header.
Source of the problem has to come from the FC.
Okay, so now that's pointing to the flight controller.
I guess there's something wrong with the connector. The pins all look good. I'm no electrical engineer, so I don't quite know if there's any visible damage. My guess is that something broke due to overheating. It has to be a hardware issue because it flew perfectly fine. Does anybody know what to do? I don't want to spend another 80 euros on another FC.
You say it happened after fiddling around with your VTX. What were you doing? So what I want to know here is, was he messing around in the software like in the CLI, or was he soldering? And this is going to help us route down a path of configuration problem versus damaged hardware.
Oh, I guess it might be relevant. Maybe he touched the freaking thing to the flight controller and zapped that thing. I don't know.
I don't see any solder blobs or anything here. I don't see any physical. Oh, God. Oh, I see. No, this is a bit of a mess. This soldering is just absolute trash. I don't know how. Are these motor output pads and he's bridged a pad somehow by accident? On this small flight controller, I wouldn't expect the motor outputs to be duplicated as solder pads.
I'll say, while he's working on this, I suspect that, and I don't know for sure, right? This is one that I know, but I don't know, right? I suspect that the answer is that motor output that he can't get to work on the pin, somehow he flashed or changed a setting, and then that pin lost. I don't know if it's a DMA assignment or what do you call it, a timer or whatever it is. But it's either that or somehow he burnt out a pin on the MCU. I mean, it's possible if you wired something wrong or some weird voltage got in there. You know, everything dies sometimes. This one specifically is going to be tough because we're going to go down the train of analyzing the connector. And then if the connector's not broken and the flight controller's not broken, what are you going to do, right?
It was moving the VTX around to get better mounting so it was secure. Okay, so this is not a software issue.
I don't think this is soldering related. I cannot imagine how it would be. So my answer is going to be that.
There's no VTX soldered to the FC now. So sometimes people will describe a situation, but then the photos they're showing don't match the situation they're describing, and they've changed something, but they haven't thought to tell you about it. It's why when I troubleshoot, I always ask for pictures. You can get so much information from a picture that the person doesn't think to tell you or doesn't think is relevant. Always ask for pictures.
Man, how do I answer this? Yes. I mean, the answer is yes. It had to be because he was trying to fly the drone. He was trying to arm. He was fiddling with the VTX, so it had to be attached, right?
Now what I'm thinking is he broke something when he was like moving it around. He jacked up a wire maybe. Like when he put it back together, he pinched a wire, for example.
One thing you could do is get a multimeter in continuity mode, swipe along the backside of the plug housing, both the ESC and the FC to test from continuity from ESC to FC.
So if the problem happened just from moving the VTX around, it has to be some physical change that was made. Somehow the FC was damaged during the move.
This is also where my head went, right? If he's moving the VTX and then suddenly it stopped working, like it could make sense that he burned a trace somehow. I still don't understand how. Yeah, we're on this. We're here. We have arrived. The question is, what do we do? We're looking for remap LED strip or remap motor 3, right? That's what we're hoping for. And technically, I didn't ask that. We went through a lot of setting and explained that reflashing didn't help, right? I guess the pin has to be the problem, and he came up with remap. But I don't know. We can let Bardwell get that, right?
Based on the information we're getting, there must be hardware damage to the flight controller. And so trying a new flight controller, like I hate to say, just buy a new FC for $80, but I think that's what we need to see if that's fixing it. I think we've come to the point where that's a reasonable suggestion to make. Before you do that, you could just try defaulting the flight controller and wiping the settings, because you can't always trust that the user's telling you the full truth. And he's saying, no, I didn't change anything.
Oh, he's not catching it.
Use 4 motors with this flight controller. Oh, I see. That was a good one.
Yeah.
I like that one. I'll tell you, my own criticism of myself here is that I was thinking, let's troubleshoot this issue, and not thinking, how can I fix this guy's quadcopter? So but remapping the motor output would have also troubleshot the issue, I guess.
To be fair, I didn't ask the user that. The user offered to.
The user really offered that?
He said, can I remap a motor output? Because I'm sure he was Googling on his own stuff. But
yeah,
I felt like I'm not going to give that to GPT either. We'll see if I can get it. I feel like it's better.
Yeah.
Trying to get that.
Why didn't I suggest that?
I don't know. To me, when you responded with get a second FC, I said that's kind of a fail to me. You're right, but the answer should be hey, let's fix the thing you're using, right? Get more hardware that a user might not have, right?
No, remapping would allow them to keep using their existing hardware.
Yeah, and you're right. My only thing I can assume is he touched something, a trace or something, on his FC with the VTX. Or sent a surge through something and fried that wire. Because we reflashed. I had him check everything. We checked everything you could check basically, and it just seems like that pin was dead.
All right, let's see how ChatGPT does. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see. Replacing the ESC and the FC. It's good that you've ruled out a few potential. Before jumping to the conclusion the FC is fault, let's troubleshoot a bit further. The solder joints on the flight, so it wants us to check the housing I don't know how you would do that. I mean, like either it's broken off or it's not. But okay,
I think it's thinking about 2018, like
you're
a
thinking
JBF4.
it's thinking that we're soldering the signal wires directly instead
like
of being plugged.
Yeah, like a JBF4, like an old AIO, right?
Okay.
I mean, that's what it sounds like. But yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, if a user read that, they wouldn't know about that.
Yeah.
So
number two is just a punt. That's a worthless. Are they compatible enough? That's just a punt. That doesn't like. They're compatible. They just. I mean,
yes, they are.
If you're gonna ask the question like number two, you need to be way more specific and say like, does your ESC support D shot, right? But like, did you tell it what ESC it was? Yeah. No.
Nope.
It's fine. It's fine. I mean, you could assume that that they like support D-shot, and it was working. It was working before the VTX move. So, like, clearly the firmware isn't the issue.
Yeah.
We didn't change the firmware.
Can you connect the FC with the Betaflight configurator and see if the ESC motor tab shows any response from the motors? So it didn't listen to what we said. 3 of the motors work. 1 does not.
Number 4 is actually a decent suggestion, but number 4 is how you isolate it to the flight controller or the ESC, but we've already isolated it to the flight controller.
Correct.
So although number 4 is a good suggestion, it's unnecessary. It draws us to a conclusion we already have. And then number 5 is a good suggestion. Number 5 is like, hey, where you screw it around in the CLI, tell me the truth. That is absolutely the same question that I asked.
Yeah, that's almost identical.
Swapping at the flight controller side would make it change the motors. On the FC, swapping at the flight controller makes it change motors.
Yeah, right. On the FC.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Could there be any...
That's pretty freaking vague. For number 5, let's just say I haven't touched the CLI at all.
Right.
Since it was working. But that's a good suggestion. Trace the circuit. So the last one started to look like what I said to do with the multimeter, but they're actually going from the motor output back to the MCU, not CPU, MCU, which is a complete waste of time. No one can do that.
Right. I think the problem is like, there's no way this thing's going to tell me how to find the pin, which pin it is, that I have a small enough multimeter to actually touch only that pin, that I'm going back to the correct, you know what I mean? It's like, none of that will actually happen.
No. ChatGPT ends up where I ended up. Yeah. Like, it hasn't really concluded that the flight control is at fault, but it says you may need a new flight controller. Right? But here's the thing.
We're going to be fair, though. Right, because
we're going to be fair, and we're going to give it the same prompt you gave me and see if it jumps to motor remapping. And if it does, it didn't give too much bad advice. And I think we're going to call this one a tie if it suggests motor remapping. Does it do it? Is it going to suggest motor remapping? Okay. Yeah!
All right, we got there.
Oh, yeah! Oh, an LED strip. Suggest LED strip. Oh, let's see if the suggestions are correct. So why did it say, Motor 5 none, like Resource Motor 5 B08? That is 100% correct. But is it going to tell you to move the wire? You got to move the wire. No.
It did not remind us to move the wire.
Still, I think we're going to call this one a tie.
I think so too.
Both of us ended up going, I don't know, maybe your FC's messed up. Yeah. And then when the user prompted us to be like, hey, is there nothing I can do? We both went, how about motor mapping? We're going to call this a tie.
Yeah.
Except I made fewer time-wasting suggestions.
Correct.
So it's a tie, but
I do believe that's going to be the case with all of these. I would be shocked if GPT nails it in one, but we'll see.
Nice. All right, let's do one more. And
that's going to be one that I didn't even know how to fix. I got to after a lot of work. That is this nightmare of a question. I say nightmare. It's just, this was tough.
I want to flash Blue Jay to my all-in-one flight controller ESC Super BF4 that came with the HD0 MOB 6v3. When I flashed Blue Jay, the flight controller does not recognize the ESC anymore. Only on BLHES. Fuck.
This guy basically flashes Blue Jay, and the flight controller can't see. It can't work anymore. But he's able to flash back to BLHES, and he can spin his motors again. He goes back to Blue Jay, can flash, no problem. But they don't spin, and he goes back to BLHES. And normally you'd be like bidirectional D-shot, but that's backwards. BLHES should work, and Blue Jay shouldn't. Then you go, what is it?
Let's look this one up. Super B F4 AC0 Mob 6 V3. AC0 Mob 6 V3. Let's just look this up and get some background here. BlueJay compatibility. Model Super X HD. It says Bill Heli S. BlueJay firmware ready.
Yeah, so I said, doesn't work with BlueJay? Like, how does this not work? But it doesn't work with Blue. You can see how confused I am here. And he never tested it when he got the drone. Like, I could not figure. I was so confused. And then he said, what's weird is that D-Shot doesn't work anymore. It doesn't get the right motor resources. The motor resource only fit on PWM. So I'm going to give this to Bardwell at some point. But that doesn't still tell him that I flashed it. It just says, like, there's another bug you haven't figured out yet. We're going to help him, though. We're going to see. We got to see what he asks first. Yeah, see where he goes.
Let's try turning off bidirectional D-Shot. Sometimes that fixes it. I've had this happen before. And the BlueJay should support bidirectional D-Shot, but I've had issues where the ESC just doesn't support it, even with BlueJay.
Here we go. Now he's close enough that now we get to shoot the.
So now we've got a more complicated situation. Sometimes in trying to fix one problem, the user breaks something else, and that may have happened here. We need to make sure that he's got the right version. Emotional spin, just kind of on high throttle, but still wrong. ESCs are back on BlueJay 19 with 90K, 6K.
It pops up a thing that says 0 out of 4 resources assigned.
So the user is sort of just spamming information, and we have to slow down and we have to take it methodically. But all of it's useful information, but we have to just take it methodically, and we have to verify facts. So we can trust the user when they say, I flashed the flight controller, but we need to verify facts like it doesn't get the right motor resources. What does that mean? Because sometimes the user will give a diagnosis that is incorrect, but we want to find out the underlying, yeah, okay.
I don't know that I probably would not have gotten this because I didn't know this was a thing. I even put this in the know-it-all chat in Bardwell's Discord to other troubleshooters. Could help.
I'm not sure what the user did. I've seen the 0 of 4 resources assigned before, and I don't remember what the most common cause is.
I think it's more. I mean, we gotta like. We have a pass or fail case here, right? So far, he's been great. This is exactly what you do. You ask these are very normal questions to ask. It's almost always the target. And then you go like, oh, wait, you already reflashed? Oh.
I've had this issue. Uh-huh. Oh, yeah, that's it.
Boom! He nailed it. Yes, that's correct.
Woof. Yep, cloud build. So in Betaflight 4.4, you can choose to leave out parts of Betaflight to reduce the file size because the full Betaflight code base doesn't fit on all flight controllers. So for example, if you're using a D-Shot as your motor protocol, you don't need to include all the other motor protocols that you're not using. If you turned off D-Shot, yes, okay, yes. So the user was, looking here in update firmware and was choosing PWM here because they were trying to change the PWM frequency with BlueJay, but that meant they were disabling D-Shot. Yes! Woo! Woo!
He got that one. That was good. That's a straight W.
This was a very realistic troubleshoot, which is that you started from I did X and now Y is broken.
Yep.
And then as we talked, you like spammed me with a bunch of other things you did. And I was like, oh, we got to slow down. Like, it turns out you also flashed the flight controller, which you didn't tell me at first. And it's why, like,
I was trying to be fair about it. Like, I was trying to get into character. That's why I was telling Chad, like, I feel like I'm in character.
That's entirely real. That always happens.
Yep.
And so that's an unqualified win for me. I got that one, the correct answer. Yay, I'm happy.
Yeah, that's what I said. 100% a W. That was great.
Yeah. Can be tricky, but don't worry. We'll try to troubleshoot this together. BlueJay is a firmware. So it turns out that BlueJay was a complete red herring.
Yep. Well, what I've learned about BlueJay is BlueJay doesn't work with PWM. I didn't know that.
Oh, I guess I didn't know that either.
Right?
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. So let's see. At some point, you're going to have to offer up that you also flash the flight controller, right? So, like, I don't want to take too much of the viewer's time nitpicking these answers. ESC hardware is compatible with BlueJay, right? I don't know. That's valid. Make sure you're selecting the correct firmware version for your ESC. That's valid.
Different
Okay,
ESC.
let's ask it, how can I verify the correct firmware version for my ESC?
Correct. So this would lead us to there,
ESC
right?
chip model. Well, that's not going to give you the target name, though.
Yeah, it will.
Will it? Will it?
In this case, it does. Yeah, because Module 6 has the ZH30 listed on the target page, or listed on the page. There's another listing.
It does.
The one you
it does. ZH30 BlueJay 01948K.
Yes.
Well done.
Right.
So let's do this. Let's do this, Blunty.
Okay.
Go to the product page for the flight controller. Here, I'm going to copy this text. Give it this text and say, which of this is the ESC target name? Or something like that. It's saying that it should specify the ESC blah, blah, blah. Which of, says, here is the product listing for the ESC and flight controller. So let it know what it's giving it. Let's see if it correctly identifies the ZH30.
There you go.
Oh, well done. Well done. Well done.
Yeah.
Well done, FPV Advisor. Well done. That's a win for it. That's a win for it.
Yeah. Not the original question, but yes, that is a win.
So now as a user, I'm like, okay, this ESC supports BlueJay. I've flashed it with the right target. This is the point where I might volunteer and give it the same prompt you gave me. But like I'll volunteer, oh, by the way, I screwed around with a bunch of other stuff too.
Yeah.
Fair. Number one is fair. That's similar to what I did when I had you I suggested you default the board, or I had you paste in the factory CLI dump.
I'm gonna double down on number 2.
Come on, baby. Come on, baby. Come on, baby.
It's
go
correct.
To cloud build.
Just find it. Find it.
It's got to go to cloud build. No.
It's crucial. That doesn't make it. Those words don't make any sense. Since PWM isn't working, but DShot isn't, it's crucial to ensure DShot is selected. Yeah, man.
Yeah. Let's see how much we have to help it before it gets the answer.
Okay.
Like, what are you going to pitch it?
I'm going to say what the user told me that answered it for me, but it's like almost, hold on. Well,
give it. Yeah. So in your case, you hadn't finished troubleshooting and the user told you something that basically gave the answer away.
He said, I think I flashed the wrong motor protocol. I mistook PWM with PWM frequency.
And you immediately went, oh yeah, cloud build is the issue.
I was like, yeah, you don't flash a motor protocol.
So let's see if if it is at least as smart as you were. Come on, baby. It's going to tell you to go to the motor tab.
Yeah.
No. And it's saying to go to the configuration tab, but that's in the motors tab since Betaflight 4.4 at least. It's not in the configuration tab.
Yeah.
Okay.
This doesn't understand about the cloud build stuff.
No, this is an L. It's close, but it's an L. All right, Blunty. How did we do? What's the final score? Me versus the AI, ChatGPT.
Okay. I think the score is essentially 2-1. In the first round, you got the DNF and the ChatGPT basically got the L. The second round, you both got a W. And the third round, you got the win, but unfortunately, ChatGPT wasn't quite able to figure out what a cloud build was. So, overall,
two wins. Yeah. 2 wins for me and 1 win for ChatGPT is the takeaway.
Yes, that is correct. And the first one's technically for you, kind of a DNF, but we were sort of in between.
We were figuring out the format. I still think this is a very interesting exercise. It shows the potential of large language models, but also their weakness. And also, in some ways, shows the weakness of real people. Like, I was far from perfect. I'm a little embarrassed on the first one that I spaced that SPI receivers don't have Wi-Fi. Like, if ChatGPT were to have done that, I would be like, stupid AI. SPI receivers don't have Wi-Fi. It's flawed. And yet I did that.
One thing that comes to mind here, like if I think about how ChatGPT is answering things, it reminds me a lot of like the general chat in some Discords you go into for FPV, or like the Facebook beginner chats, right?
Yes,
like
it really does.
You're getting a whole bunch of pitches, and there's good info, and they're sort of in the ballpark. But like sometimes you're just going to get stuff that has no way to help you. Sometimes you're going to get stuff that ruins it, and sometimes you're going to get the perfect answer that exactly tells you what you need to know.
I think that's a great way of putting it. Like at this point, ChatGPT is about as smart, and I say ChatGPT, this is one specific large language model that's been fed one specific set of information, and it could get better. But at this point, this particular model that we've been working with is about as capable as a random random Facebook chat group.
Yeah.
and so sometimes it'll give the right answer, but there's a lot of wasted time and sometimes just frankly incorrect stuff in there. And the problem is that as a total beginner, like you don't know how to filter that. You're just going to assume that what you're being told is worthwhile and you can't judge whether it's, whereas like I'll say this, I'll stick up for myself and say this. I wasted a whole lot less of the user's time with completely invalid wrong information and bunny trails than ChatGPT. Well, if you are interested in getting this kind of help from me or from It's Blunty, well, actually, you don't have to do anything. You can just email me, jb@joshuabardwell.com. I help just about everybody who messages me. And but if you felt like returning the favor, you could join my Patreon and join my Discord. And, that's where people like Blunty hang out and give, in some cases, better answers than I would have. If you would like to try out this AI as well, if you want to play with it, I'll have a link down in the video description below. Blunty, it's not free. That's not Adam FPV's fault. ChatGPT requires you to have a subscription to use these custom models, right?
Yeah, right now it's based on GPT-4, so that means you have to have a subscription to OpenAI to be able to use the GPT-4 model to then use the GPT. But I suspect that in 6 to 12 months, these will be like for public consumption. That's my guess.
Okay. Well, there's a link down below and you can go check that out. Thank you very much to Adam for making this. It's very cool. And despite the fact that we nitpicked it, I think it's a real, like, it's going to be bad for a long time before it's good, just like people who learn to do things. So kudos. And also, Blunty, thank you for prepping these questions.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm always helping people in your Discord, so I figured we'd pull some and we do a fun little segment here.
We actually had more questions prepped that we didn't get to because we've been going for like 2 hours now. And we thought that just was video long enough. If you guys would like to see a second version of this, would that be valuable or would it just be more of the same? Let us know in the comments. If there's enough demand, we'll sit down and we'll do another version of it. I mean, we could just keep doing this forever. But let us know in the comments if you'd like to see us do some more of this. That's going to do it for this video, though. But if you're interested in watching me do more troubleshooting, I'm going to put a couple cards on screen to a couple videos where I got on a phone call, or a Zoom call, with some people who were having an actual problem with their quadcopter, and I walked them through the troubleshoot. It's all been edited down to be consumable. I'm going to put a couple cards on screen for those if you're interested in seeing more of how this kind of thing goes down. I'll see you there.